Sure, sure.
Okay, so good afternoon, good morning, and probably good evening for some participants who have joined from different corners of the world or different continents of the world. TRIZtalks, as we know, we started this particular initiative in January 2022, and this is the second chapter of the TRIZtalks. The basic idea of TRIZtalks is to bring the TRIZ community together and have a very informal type of a discussion wherein people come and people share their experiences. Some might be TRIZ level 1 practitioners, some might be level 2, some might be TRIZ masters. There might be people who will be also novice to TRIZ. So the idea of this particular platform is to just come and exchange your views, share your ideas, and just cross pollinate and take some takeaways from this. So today we have the speaker for the day is Mr. Sadashiv Pandit. He happens to be the managing partner for BioBasket. He is also a managing partner at Unigo Fashion Wear. He is a mentor for Holistic Consulting, and he is also a former chairman at Fleetguard Filters Private Limited, and he is also a TRIZ Level 3 professional by himself. So let us hear from Mr. Sadashiv Pandit, his experiences, his flavor of TRIZ, and why he got inclined and passionate for TRIZ. So over to you, Mr. Pandit.
Thank you, Narayan, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to all guests who are watching this seminar. Most of my career happened to be in the automotive field, and I retired from my previous company, Fleetguard Filters, in 2020. And then I have started my own business of developing retail channels. But trees came into my studies, or I would say attention, say by 2014 or 15. And since then, I have been a student of trees. And I would like to share what I found different in trees vis-a-vis my experience of 42 years of experience in manufacturing industry in India, mostly. So I have prepared few slides, so I will take you through that, and then probably we'll open for question and answers. The first thing in India we have seen for many years that people always go for know-how. Means whenever you ask for any invention or innovation or R&D, then the question that people will ask is, what is the know-how you want? And probably in trees, I have found that know-how is the wrong question. Know why should be the right question. And that is what trees does. Now I will explain that to you. See, when we start with know-how, we already have a product or a process in front of us. It means the customer is already hiding or the market is hiding, and we try to imitate something which is there, maybe a little more efficient or cost effective. But the customer and his needs, which really gets captured in know why. This is how TRIZ does through the parameter of values, MPV analysis, trends of engineering systems. So first thing I realized is that our R&D is means I personally did this mistake for years of focusing on know how then know why. So that was the first understanding I had when I went through the trees because of their connectivity to market. So market and technology, they look at both the things as two sides of a coin, which is very, very important. The second thing what I found is that in my experience, I used to follow standards like QS 9000, ISO 9000, TS. And typical tools which we used to do is for problem solving, 8D formats, then failure mode analysis, brainstorming, 5 whys. And I realized that a lot of these tools have some basic weaknesses when I started studying trees. And what I understood is that in trees, we focus more on functions. And these tools, they focus on components. For example, the bearing failed. So we will continuously move around the bearing. But we may not come to the function of bearing as a starting point. So these tools typically, as they focus on component, they do not give that importance to function, which should be the key thing, because focusing on function have a lot of benefits of finding a solution which is cost effective or a win-win or a breakthrough. And these tools somehow divert our attention to components. This is what I realized the weaknesses of the typical tools which are used in manufacturing industry, especially in the automotive in India. The third thing what I realized in TRIZ, which is again a very important point, is they have many tools for problem identification and many tools for concept development and many tools for concept substantiation. This is something because we used to use only 80 format. So how I will find a solution? Solution probably maybe what I know, or probably somebody in brainstorming will come out. But there is no scientific and systematic process of identifying a solution. This is the first weakness I found. And when we come to problem, typically identifying the right problem is a very simple statement to make, but it's a very difficult thing. Unless you go through quiz, we will not understand. For example, if you are using benchmarking, then you will identify different problem. If you are going to S-curve analysis, you will identify different problem. If you are in a feature transfer, you will identify different problem. So identifying the right problem is very important, is what TRIZ tries to tell, which impressed me a lot. Now coming back to problem solving, then they have functional oriented search. That tool allows us to use the global knowledge. Means we did not, we can integrate the global knowledge by a functional oriented search. Then ARIS is a tool which allows us to really tackle very difficult problems which are very means sort of something which is imaginary to think that can you solve the problem. And another big thing about these tools is that as they hit the contradiction, the typical tools which I explained some time back, like 80, they do not define a problem in the form of contradiction, which according to me is the biggest problem. So unless you solve the, because in industry, the problems come because of many things. And one of the very normal thing which I have seen is that the organization always grows in one direction only. Means they may have good design department, but bad operating performance, good operation, but little bad marketing. So the identity of the organization is what TRIZ captures, and this differentiation in various departments working at various level creates a lot of conflicts. Means you may have a good product, but it is very expensive. You may have a very cost effective product, but it's not good. Means I have hundreds and thousands of examples to give. So because of TRIZ typical approach of putting the focus on the conflict and a focus on what should be the ideal solution and the focus on using existing resources only. These three things really make a solution unique, which probably the tools which I said earlier do not do that job very well. Means at least my experience, I cannot say that I am fully right, but according to me, more or less, what I say makes sense. The another good thing about I saw in the TRIZ is the concept substantiation. Means they talk about secondary problem solving, they talk about super effect analysis, which is a very unique thing. Means you find a solution, but that solution itself has a lot of embedded potential to give more benefits, which I never thought till I studied TRIZ. So I found that very nice and interesting. Then what are the now I'm talking about strategic importance of trees for a company or a nation, which I think many times our existing problem solving methods do not look into. For example, if you look at trends in engineering system and if you look at Tesla as a success story, what did Tesla do? Tesla looked at the S curve. Tesla found out that the auto industry is in the level 3 or level 4. So Tesla said that let me seriously disrupt the market through new solution whereby they change the diesel engine power to a battery power. Means they said that without that you cannot be profitable. Now, if you really look at big auto companies existing this time or before Tesla, they had enough funds, but probably what they missed is looking at the S curve. What they missed is looking at the trends in engineering system where the system has to become more ideal. So they kept on working around the IC engine and making small improvements. And what they missed is a big improvement which Tesla did, and then they become the most expensive company in the world. So it shows that the TRIZ approach of looking at technology, you have to look into the trends and then take a solution forward. Means you can't invent just like it. You have to see where is the trend, only then your solution will sustain. The second important thing which I find in TRIZ as far as the R&D and innovation is concerned as a strategic is the MPV. See, MPV is on one side, while we say is very difficult to identify, but understanding that MPV identification is very vital for survival, then our journey at least will have a very high probability of success. If we ignore MPV, then I am sure that no company will know. We have a lot of examples in Indian auto industry, at least I have seen, where new models were launched and they never worked because they probably missed on the MPV. Some of the models I will not mention it here because I do not know the audience and it may hurt their feelings. So, but I have seen a lot of examples of a lot of models in auto industry, especially they were launched, but they missed the MPV and they had a huge failures. At the same time, some had huge successes. So MPV part, which becomes a very critical part of any innovation, is something which I say has to be the starting point of any journey. The third thing what I like about TRIZ is that they focus on adoption than invention every time. Because then you have basically having an invention and proving the idea, spending money, and then be sure that the idea is perfect is a big expense account. However, if I am in auto industry and if there is something which is invented in say electronic industry, then and if it is proven in that industry, when I say proven means it works in that industry in a very critical condition, then my total invention process becomes very cost effective, which is very important thing. This cost effectiveness thought like that, and then using the world knowledge pool through function oriented search or with the TRIZ database, it becomes very easy. Plus, when I started doing my level 3 project, I use Google as a world database, and I could solve according to me, a problem which the manufacturer could not solve. So when we look at TRIZ as a leadership tool, we have to understand its strategic dimensions, which are very critical. Otherwise, you really cannot have a leadership in technology. Then I will talk a little bit about my case study. See, when I did my level 3, actually I retired from my previous job where I worked for 43 years, and I started my own retail channels. And I was telling TRIZ Asia that I would like to select a project which is totally new. Only then my knowledge testing will be done very well. Because see, whenever you are learning a new tool, if you do not do the reflection, then you really do not understand the tool. And reflection means, have you defined the problem correctly? Is the defining understood? Can I demonstrate like that? So I selected a problem. Actually, I am a mechanical engineer spending 43 years in auto industry, and I selected a problem related to dairy. There is for my friends who are listening to this from Europe. See, in India, we have a what you can say a sweet called as basundi, which is made out of milk. And this basundi is a condensed milk type of product which is sold as a sweet. And my client, what his problem was that he designed a process to increase the shelf life of another product called as gulab jamun. Now I really cannot explain how this gulab jamun is, but then he bought a big processing equipment from Denmark doing the steam retort, and he could increase the shelf life of gulab jamun to 6 months so that he can distribute to more customers within India. Unfortunately, when he tried that process on Basundi, it failed. So he came to me saying that this is the thing. I want this Basundi also to have a life of 6 months. Now, I do not know ABC of dairy industry, but I tried my best to do the functional analysis. Went back to TRIZ experts and my coach, Alex, and then we could find a very nice solution using ARIS. And then my client did trials on the solution, and he confirmed to me that while he do not know whether the life has increased 6 times, but definitely it has increased 2 to 3 times with the trials they have taken. Now, what point I am making here is I am not a dairy expert. I am a TRIZ expert, you can say, because doing level 3. And then I am utilizing the core competence of people who are working in the organization who are subject matter experts. Now, generally, the problem with subject matter experts is they know their topic, but they do not know others' topic at all. So they really do not do a coordinated job. So if you really would like to put this as a conflict, I will say that I would like to have a cross-functional team with a lot of experts. But then the negative I will have is that the output would be very low or very lengthy. So what I did in this case means why trees allowed me to make use of them. Because of the functional modeling, I used to go to each expert with the functional diagram, and then I used to ask the questions. And then when we started using the trees idea generation, we really started using the X factors. And I used to ask them that if the oven is the thing which is going to solve the shelf life, what do you think? So, like that, they could really get connected to the problem through their special skills. So, the point I'm making here is that the TRIZ methodology allows these special experts to very easily integrate and become part of the solution because they understand the direction to which they have to walk. And then, as they being the expert in their field, they run fast. So I could solve that problem. And of course, I would like to say thanks to Mr. Shri, who was my coach, Narayan, as well as Mr. Alex from the US. So, Narayan, this is what I have understood by TRIZ. Now I am open for questions.
Great, sir. And in fact, I think it was a nice journey which you explained with a very, very simple case study. So probably participants, anybody who would like to ask questions to Mr. Pandit, in fact, you can ask him how he started, why he got delayed, what made him come towards TRIZ. Any question, probably if you have any questions with respect to
Yeah, yeah.
his journey towards TRIZ or something, you can definitely please unmute yourself and ask the question. Any questions from the team? Yeah, you can unmute and ask. Don't post it on the chat box because I will have to open it and read it for you. So probably you can just unmute and ask. I see one question there. TRIZ expert and problem owner can solve the problem together without anyone's help. Yeah, that's a comment rather than a question. Okay, so if there are no questions, I will like to start one question from my side. You would have got exposed to many type of tools in your journey because now you were the former chairman for a particular company, and before that also you would have a very vast career. So you would have got exposed to many tools like the Six Sigma, the TOC, the design thinking. So how do you compare these particular tools with TRIZ? Which is better or they complement? What is your take on this?
See, when you look at trees, what I find very interesting is it makes use of the base laws of physics, chemistry, biology very well. Means when you go to say physical contradiction in a trees, when you verbalize the problem as a physical contradiction, you are actually going deep into these basic sciences. So whenever you go and try to go to a problem which is related to the basic science, then the solution is going to be really much better because you are going deep into the cause. So when I look at these other tools, they do not have a methodology to reach to that place. So I can say that by accidentally some people might can reach there. Otherwise, those tools do not have a methodology to reach to the basic sciences. That really makes TRIZ far too apart from the other tools. This is what I will say. The another great thing which TRIZ has is it pushes you to use existing resources. The third thing what TRIZ does is that it tries to verbalize you your ideal final result or what is the outcome you want. So it practically breaks your mental inertia of trying to solve the problem which you know and trying to get a solution which you already know. Only thing is that you will be very fast in solving it. So trees really gives you an innovation because of that. Because you try to solve a problem which is not known to you, and your solution also comes out which is not known to you. This is the beauty. So I will say that trees is way apart in thinking and doing compared to the other tools. However, the other tools do have their utility in case of small problems where you really do not need to go that deep. Means I will still say that trees has to be used more or less as a specialized recurring problem tool for it to become efficient in the industry.
Great. And just to supplement this particular question, sir, thank you for your answer though. Supplement the one more question. Holistic definitely is into TOC consulting. So
Yeah.
do you see any synergy between TOC and TRIZ? They are synergetic or do they compete with each other?
See, TOC talks about conflict. Unfortunately, TOC doesn't talk to the level of detail what TRIZ talks. But the synergy here is that whenever we go to any company, like the case study which I mentioned, that the customer has a technical contradiction, means technical constraint that he doesn't know what to do, but he wants the product shelf life to be improved. So TOC and TRIZ, I will say that TRIZ will solve very difficult TOC challenges where the technology is a constraint. And I am taking one more step. It is not about technology as a constraint. If somebody says that I am losing sales, then the MPV tool of trees will also solve that problem. So I would say that TOC will try to define the area where we need to focus, and then trees will go deep down and really get the treasure out.
Great. So I think TOC and TRIZ complements, and
Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah.
TRIZ goes one step ahead where TOC probably is a bit reluctant or stops.
Correct. In fact, I have stopped using some of the TOC problem solving tools and I use the trees flow analysis tool more when I try to understand the client. I have
Great.
already done by myself that some of the TOC tools, they really do not give me the exact area where I need to attack, laser sharp. So I use flow analysis more than the TOC so-called thinking processes and I
Great.
find them more productive.
So you have married TOC and TRIZ together in your
Yeah,
approach.
you're right. TOC do have a lot of great things when it comes to synchronization because when it comes to pure management capabilities, TOC still does a great job, especially in project management, synchronization. Those are the areas where I don't know we have found any solution in trees because when you go for trees in management, still it is getting developed, but I'm sure in another 20, 30 years a lot of things will happen there also.
Yeah, you hit the next question. In fact, the next question comes from something into process or management. How can one solve time management issues using concept of TRIZ?
See, time management using concept of trees, I will have to tell you that time management is better understood by TOC than trees. I will tell you why. What happens is that when we go to any company and we tell them that we would like to improve your bottom line or your cash flow or whatever, because a company understands a balance sheet. So that is the language we have to speak to them. And then they may know that these are the problems with the product, these are the problems with prices. So at the top level, they talk about it. But what we tell them that now you want to improve something means you have to get some task done fast. So you need a tool which will do it. And that tool is from TOC, which we call it as a critical chain project management. But when it comes to solving a TRIZ problem, what we try to tell them, now your question I will try to address in another way that if you want to solve a technical problem, typically people go with trial and error. And TRIZ doesn't have trial and error, and there is a substantial saving in time because of the approach of TRIZ in solving the problem, because there is no trial and error. So I can say that typical technical problems solved in the industry go with brainstorming, idea generation, consolidating the ideas, and one by one, like Thomas Edison had 999 failures before the final came out. I don't think the haystack syndrome thing works in trees. Trees is very specific, and they must be saving one third time because of the nature of the way the problem solving method is developed. There is no trial error, so you save time because of that.
Mr.
Great.
Pandit, I have one question. Can
Yeah,
I ask?
Harsha.
Yes.
So my name is Vikram Pandit.
Yes.
So Mr. Pandit, I want to ask that is, is trees limited only for process development and product development, or it can also be used for finding strategic roadmap?
See, trees can be used for strategic roadmap. I will tell you why. See, we have one tool in trees called as the S curve analysis. Every product we say goes through 4 stages of life. So life cycle. So like if you take auto industry, say IC engine is at level 3 where the technology has already reached the plateau. Now you cannot really make a new IC engine which is substantially different and you can generate a more market share. So your challenge will be always to sustain the market share by improving the cost, something like this. So means your product is now going into the next stage of decline. It is going to die down. So by looking at your product roadmap of S curve, you know where you are, and then you can evolve a strategy to do it. So there is a tool called as Trends in Engineering System in TRIZ, which allows you to exactly strategize what you need to do for remaining in business. It will tell you how to commercially you will plot, and then what you need to do technologically, then what is that, then it will connect you to the customer, and then it will try to find out the key value which customer wants and customer doesn't know. So TRIZ is a tool. There are tools to identify strategies also. Very powerful, I would say.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
thank you,
Pandit.
thank
I
you.
hope,
Yeah.
yeah, I hope, Mr. Pandit. Yeah, thank you. There's one more question coming from Guru Raj. He says, how can we use TRIZ approach in startups competitiveness as almost 90% of startups are failing in the first 3 to 5 years?
See, again, honestly, I know that startups fail, but I exactly do not know why startup fail. So let me make my stand very clear. But I can tell you something which I have thought, because I am also now working on a startup of supplying organic vegetables and trying to establish a channel, and I really find a stiff resistance from customer. Because in when you start a startup, you try to solve a problem. Now, what trees can tell you is, are you solving the right problem is the first challenge which trees will pose in front of you. It means that is this problem what you are solving is really the problem you should solve. Then how you are solving also it will tell you, if you solve this way it will not yield good results, if you solve that way. So for startup, if they really go through the trees thinking, then whether their startup is potential one or not will come out. Because according to me, generally what happens with lot of startups is people try to do a know how approach. I will tell you why I say know how, because they see something that, oh, somebody has done something, somebody has put an app and market, they are getting a market. So then people will start putting different apps for different applications. So it is more or less like a know-how. We have to understand that are we connected to the customer and do we really know the problem? Because in our day-to-day life also, in our personal life also, when something goes wrong with our health, we spend a lot of time in doing testing to know the problem. But in industry, what I have seen, because of a term which is used in trees called as mental inertia, we try to quickly identify a problem and we try to quickly get a solution. Now that quickness is an enemy and which TRIZ calls as mental inertia. So my suggestion to the startup companies would be is to really go through the TRIZ and find out, means is it the right problem to solve. Now what can they do is that they can go to the S curve for that particular product or concept and find out where it is, then find out that why what will happen. Means there are ample examples in my TRIZ literature which tells us which startup should use, so that probably they will have less failures.
Great. And I think MPV also plays a very vital role over there. What
MPV is a
exactly?
big thing,
Yeah,
and then how they are solving the problem.
true, true. Okay.
Sir,
So,
this is
Mr. Narayan, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Harsha, probably, I think you raised the hand, so probably please ask the question.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Narayan.
And keep it short, huh?
Yes, certainly. Mr. Pandit, good evening.
Mhm.
Myself, Harsha Gangan, I am a student of business trees, and please accept my compliment that with 40 years of experience, still you are finding much more interesting things by using the trees. It is definitely motivating for me. And question to you that ever since you started practicing trees in your organization, there must have been certain situations that with trees you were approaching to the problem, and maybe your teammates or your subordinates with other tools you might have come to certain debatable points or something
Yeah.
which finally you could convince to the team with the trees method. If you can share one of such practical case uh, quickly, I mean, if it is possible,
No,
it
no,
will be
I
great.
will tell you. See,
Yeah,
failure
thank you.
mode effect analysis is a tool which is very widely used in auto industry. Now, what this tool is? This tool is you try to use your past history and try to document cause and effect relationship. Now, what TRIZ says that you can use this document as a reference, not as a method to arrive at a solution. So I used to tell my team that please keep this FMEA away from you because it is leading you to a wrong place, because FMEA is made based upon the component and TRIZ goes with a function. So TRIZ will tell you that I don't need this FMEA. As I said, that if the bearing fails, I will go to the bearing function rather than the bearing. This is the change I am saying.
Yeah.
And then convincing people that FMEA is not what it should do. Rather, we should scrap FMEA because it stops your thinking. See, we generally, my idea of using trees is to what I told my team that if you really are going to solve a problem known to you, don't come to me. You have a mental inertia. So unless you dig down to a unknown problem, you are not going to solve it. Then when you go to an unknown problem, which is not known to you previously, means you have gone one step below. So this mental inertia thinking I did lot with my team, and I think that is the way it should be. So the first starting means I would say 35 years of my career went into mental inertia, and maybe last 5 years in not having mental inertia. You can say that way.
Certainly.
Okay.
Thank you for that candid answer, sir. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay. I see Mr. Manik has probably raised his hand. So Manik, if you can just unmute and ask the question, keep the question short.
yeah. Good evening, sir. This is Manik Daure.
बोलिए.
How trees for MSME typically?
We are not able to hear you, Manik. Your
Yeah,
voice
correct,
is
correct.
modulating. It's
Correct,
like you
correct,
can.
correct. Hmm.
Can you
Is
just keep the?
it clear now?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. My question is how trees will be useful for MSME, typically kind of contract manufacturing company or job shop.
See, Manik, for example, I know your company because I visited it. Now, forget about being MSME or not MSME. Trees is a tool to really see that whether you are having a right product, you are connected to the customer, you are selling something what customer wants, and you can make it the way customer wants. So it is a see, trees has a very nice way of doing things. Means they take a specific problem, make it generic, find a generic solution, and convert it to specific. So they move from concrete to abstract to abstract to concrete. This is the roadway of trees. So it has nothing like MSCB or big industry or mega industry. The logic is same for everyone. So do not worry about whether you are MSME or not. But one simple application of TRIZ which can drastically benefit you people is there is a tool called as trimming. For example, if you have 10 machines and if you find that one particular machine is overloaded or one particular machine has a problem which you cannot solve, probably with TRIZ you can eliminate that operation. That possibility is there, scientific way of doing it, that solution exists in TRIZ. So that can benefit you where you are having a cash issue or you cannot have capital. The second thing what I have seen with TRIZ, and again thanks to my guru Shri Fadnis, what happens in our industry is we are so much into trying to arrive at a problem known to us and trying to arrive at a solution known to us because that keeps our job safe. I am not complaining to anybody, but if we want to perform, means we have to deliver. If we deliver fast, means we are successful. If we have to deliver fast, I will always prefer to solve a problem I know, and I will always prefer to get a solution I know. But there is a catch in this. You may not solve it properly. You may solve it, but if there is a contradiction, which generally I have seen, like TOC, Manik, TOC. You can have a DPR implemented with a huge warehouse. So which is a compromise solution. TRIZ will not allow you. TRIZ will say implement DPR with no stores.
Right.
So your MSME can benefit. You have one tool called as trimming where you can get rid of some of the key things which you have, and you can use this flow analysis for key people in your organization who are overloaded. You can use flow analysis for their work and you can release a lot of capacity for them. I know some case studies in that direction, but flow analysis using on the people because the trends of engineering systems say that automation will be more and more in future and you have to adopt it, otherwise you will not survive the race. So
Right.
you will have to see that you use less people. I am not against employment, but if you look at the trends of engineering system, if you add more and more people, your survival will be more difficult.
Right. Thank you.
So it is great for you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I see one more hand being raised up from Hemant. Hemant, if you can just unmute yourself and ask the question and keep the question short.
Yes. No, I just wanted to supplement what Mr. Pandit was saying about theory of constraints and TRIZ some 3 questions ago, earlier. You know, where is the strength of TRIZ? It is in two points. First is that all the right from Six Sigma and other various methods, the idea generation process is only brainstorming, which according to TRIZ is a very low level idea generation process. And in TRIZ, the strength of TRIZ is great idea generating processes by solving contradiction. So this is one most important thing about TRIZ. It is like this, you know, in terms of mathematics, converting a divergent problem into a convergent problem.
Yeah.
This is how TRIZ works. Point number 1. The point number 2 is Mr. Pandit was just now telling about the S curve. So every product follows an S curve: birth, growth, maturity, and decline. So and then another product comes with a different S curve. Now all these other systems are efficient in one S curve, but the strength of TRIZ is how to jump from one S curve to another S curve. That is the biggest strength of TRIZ, and this is by solving contradictions. So that is the that no other method like Six Sigma provides this this option. This is what I just wanted to make a comment to supplement what Mr. Pandit was saying just now.
Okay, thank you, Hemant. Thank you. Okay, and I see one more question on the chat box over here from Akhilesh Gulati. He says, please give an example of how you took a standard problem, redefined it to identify the right problem that helped lead to search for the existing solution in another industry. Basically, probably is asking about function-oriented search, if I'm not wrong, Panditji.
Yeah, see, right now, if you really, you have to excuse me because my exposure to trees is 3-4 years, and as a practitioner, maybe 2 years. And right now, I do not have a answer to you to the extent it is implemented, but it is already in the process. We have a customer and who is using a brazing operation, and we find that probably we can eliminate the brazing itself with another joining process through functional oriented search. This is what I can say, but the
Okay.
solution is
Just
one.
to supplement you, or probably to give an example. In fact, we have been working with TRIZ with multiple companies with multiple projects. So there was a project where we were working with some company wherein we were coating a microchip with a photoresist film. And when we were coating that particular film, there used to be a bubble track which used to get formed. So the problem was how to eliminate the bubble track. So we generalized the functions to how to eliminate bubbles from liquids. And when we started searching it, probably you can also help me out. Do you know of any industry? Because the function-oriented search tool helps us search from a completely different industry using the function. And you might probably be able to help me out over here. Uh, which industry is the most leading industry which controls millions and trillions of bubbles every day, every second, every minute? Probably anybody can help me out over here. The idea
Beverage
is to
industry.
eliminate, pardon me, beverage industry. Probably, yes. The solution was found out in wine industry. There were multiple other industries also where we found out the solutions, but the app solution which we found out was from the wine industry. And it's a completely different industry where the solution was existing. And we just have to copy that particular solution and bring it to this chip manufacturing industry. And the problem was solved. So the initial waste which was getting generated was almost 20%. And after implementing of this particular solution, it came down to 0%. So probably this is a very good example of adopting the existing solutions from some other industry. And there are multiple and thousands of case studies which we have. So probably we can be in touch so that we can contact and interact. Okay. So coming back to the next question, is TRIZ taught as a lesson in Indian universities? This is coming from A.
No, I
Mesood.
think
I think I will take this question.
no, I think yes, yeah, you can take it here.
I will take this question. Of course, yes, we are in contact with many Indian universities in India. And of course, that's not as of now adopted as a part of their curriculum. But yes, we have done some sessions with engineering colleges and also some colleges in Bombay, Pune, Nagpur, Nashik, Bangalore. But yes, now these particular colleges want to implement this as a part of their curriculum. So to answer your question, yes, it has been taught in Indian universities, but not taught as a part of their curriculum as of now. But in case your college is interested, we will be definitely glad to start interacting with you and discussing with you. I hope I answered the question. The next question comes from Mr. Tapan Shah, who says, can you please share any example where TRIZ solved any pandemic-induced problem? Well, that's a very specific question. It's very difficult for me to also recollect. Probably Pandit Ji, I don't think so whether you will be able to recollect pandemic related
No,
issues.
I know a case
Mask
study
case
where
study which we have solved can be used. Narayan sir.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mask.
Pardon me?
Mask. That is what I was saying.
Okay,
See,
yeah.
TRIZ as a case study of bringing a new mask, which will be very low cost, rather not very expensive, but very effective in not restricting the airflow while breathing. Because when you look at pandemic like what we have COVID, our problem is when we put a mask, we restrict the flow of air or breathing. So TRIZ has already developed a basic commercial concept whereby that new mask will not have any restriction. It will have zero resistance for inhaling air, but it will be very efficient in removing the bacteria.
Yeah, in fact,
That is the case study I know.
yeah, in fact, we have already come up with this particular mask, and it's actually in the last stages where it's probably going into commercialization. And we are also open for any Indian industry if they want to get more details about this particular product, so we can share those details with you.
Correct,
So that
correct,
particular
correct,
mask
correct.
doesn't stop anything, it stops the dust particles, but with 100% flow of air inside your nose for when you're breathing. Okay.
And it also uses the functional oriented search of using the concept from, I think, air handling system.
Cement industry.
Cement industry.
Yeah.
Cyclones.
Yeah, that's again an example
Yeah.
of function-oriented search, because we use a
Correct,
cyclonic
correct,
effect,
correct.
which is very heavily used in cement
Correct.
manufacturing industry, which was borrowed and just inserted into your nose. So there are
Yeah.
some products also which are existing in the market, so which uses the same
Yeah.
principle. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question again comes from Mr. Akhilesh Gulati, which says, why are organizations resistant in introducing or adopting TRIZ rather than Lean or Six Sigma, etc.?
No, see, I do not know why people do it, but as I said, mental inertia is a very typical thing. See, mental inertia allows you. Now, I will use some portion of TOC here also. See, we used to say that a person always has a conflict, internal conflict, called as stability versus growth. Stability means I should get what I'm getting and I should get more tomorrow. But he is not ready to live what he is getting today, or he doesn't want to take a risk. So this is a conflict. And when you look at mental inertia, the way people work, people would like to really implement a solution which they know works, and people would like to solve a problem which they know. Now, trees really tries to, I would say, pierce it out, and lot of people just don't feel good about it. The second thing is that people are trained to look at component than functions. This is a basic thing which I have seen in my previous company, that people are not ready to leave the components. Sir, my bearing has failed. Why are you talking about the bearing function? It is not in existence. So this is the basic thing. And the third thing about trees, I would say that it evolves solution by itself. Means if you really go through the trees tool called as arrays, which gives the highest level of complicated problem solving capability, the solution is evolved. Means you don't have to think. It will give you 10 direction by itself, and then you can select few directions. So I feel that the mental inertia is the stumbling block which many people face before adopting trees, and so that is why they say चल रहा है वो चलने दो, ऐसा रहता है.
Yeah, so probably people are very reluctant for the change, you know. And
Correct.
also to be
Yes.
very frank, the case studies of TRIZ, most probably what we have observed is TRIZ is generally practiced under the carpet. So because it gives you very what do you say, non-traditional solutions which are
Yeah.
non-obvious, and definitely it leads to patents. So none of the companies will probably come forward and tell that, okay, fine, we are using TRIZ and that's the reason actually we are innovating and so many patents. So it's generally practiced under the carpet. There are very few companies which have come forward very boldly to give you that, okay, fine, TRIZ is helping us out.
Yeah, but Narayan, there is one more thing. People feel that trees requires a lot of PhDs.
Yes.
This also is a misconception which probably you guys might have to overcome.
Yeah,
That they require PhDs.
yeah.
I don't think they require. Yes, they require subject matter expert, but that work is very less when the problem becomes that specific.
True.
Narayan, can I answer
It's a
this, Hemant, here?
combination. Yeah, please.
I am a banker. I did 35 years of banking and in industrial finance, etc. But I'm very comfortable with TRIZ. What is there between banking and TRIZ? TRIZ is about logic. It's not about a subject matter. TRIZ is about thinking in terms of functions. You know, if I may summarize TRIZ in 4 sentences, it is like this. Essence of TRIZ is this, that technical systems evolve towards an increasing state of ideality by resolving contradictions without compromise and by focusing on functionality, mostly with minimum introduction of new resources. If this is, now I am a banker, I would also be happy to have such a TRIZ talk in and maybe how industries can be more competitive, because 35 years I have seen hundreds of industries and have visited hundreds of shop floors and talked to a very broad section of industrialists and managers, and probably I can marry that experience with TRIZ someday. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. So, adding to the earlier question from Mr. Gulati, he says, along those lines, universities are not introducing TRIZ even in engineering schools. What can we do to overcome that inertia? Even in the US, I know that there are few colleges in the European world, also in the US continent, that TRIZ has been applied over there. I know that there's a college in Finland which practices TRIZ very heavily. MIT also practices. There was a study done by MIT also. So there are colleges in the international fraternity which practices TRIZ. And of course, in India, as I mentioned, yes, it is a change. And definitely when corporates start implementing this particular system, then there are the job opportunities which open up, and there is where the universities will follow. So we need, probably, if there are corporate participants over here, we will need corporates to come forward and start practicing this, appreciating this, so that the children can also, because the end of the day, what's in it for the child who is undergoing that particular training? How is he going to benefit out of it? He's looking for a better job. That's the hidden interest for him, right? If you are not going to provide that job, probably he's not very keen in that. And end of the day, the sponsors are the parents. He's not going to sponsor himself. So we need to convince the parent that this is the graph which this particular student is going to go through. So we need to bridge that particular gap. It is happening. It's going to take time, but okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is, Mr. Pandit, do you think that solutions coming out of TRIZ is more innovative than other techniques or personal skill set?
Yeah. See, solutions come from trees are more innovative. This word "more" is something what I will keep it aside. I will say that the tree solution will eliminate the contradiction. It will go toward the ideality. It will use the existing resources, and it will be as per the ideal result what anybody wants. And I don't think that the other tools really describe a solution that way. So hopefully, tree solution should be the best.
Thank you. That was very short and precise. And there is a question from Suresh coming in. In an organization setting, do you have any tips for TRIZ practitioners on how should one keep themselves engaged or updated?
See, my suggestion on trees practices once again, you are not going. See, I have seen a lot of people who undergo the course but who cannot apply the knowledge. Then it is useless. So we have to say that we have a training and using knowledge that has to be properly implemented. The second thing about trees is that. You need an external expert who will cross check whether the students are able to reflect on their learning, because TRIZ is an internal process. If you say, have you passed the exam? Yes, but I know by myself how much I know. So in that case, if you really would like TRIZ to take roots in your company, then first thing, as I said, is that you have to put focus on learn a course, use it successfully. Then second course, use it. And second is that have a external TRIZ expert to cross check through the reflection whether they have really understood. I mean, they may do a successful project, but have they understood is another thing I am suggesting, because it's a very important tool and you need to go to that level to ensure that it has really gone into their DNA. Then success will be there.
Great. So I think, yes, it's not only the training part of it, it's also the practice part of it. So you need definitely some sort of guidance and mentoring after you have undergone the training.
Correct.
Yeah. So there's a supplemental question to that probably. I think Suresh is asking again. As a manager, what should one do to nurture trees in your team?
See, first thing is that now people need to know that this tool is user friendly and this tool will make them better. You have to really go to the first step, which we call it as, see, generally every human being has layers of resistance of moving forward. So the first layer of the resistance is that they agree that trees will solve the problem they want to solve. So here my suggestion is, means there are 3 or 4 layers which I can write down and send to you if you can send me your email. But I will explain to you what are those layers. So first is that you have to agree on the problem. Means you have to say that TRIZ will be able to solve this problem. Then will TRIZ give the solution which you ideally want? Means if that solution is going to be so expensive you cannot implement, that is also not useful. So the second thing is that solution good? And third thing is that solution has any negatives which will again kill you. So these three or four things you will have to really take up with the team, so that their basic confidence is that it is a tool which will make them better. No sooner they understand that it is a make them better, then they will go all to do it. Now my second point, which is a little dicey, is that in my organization, in my whole career, I always did two things, which I am sharing probably that may be useful for you to make it a culture. See, whenever you are really gauging somebody, if somebody solves a TRIZ problem, and if you really put it to everybody that this person has solved this problem, then you have created a problem for yourself. So problem recognition has to go to team, but the problem solver should be recognized confidentially. This is the rule I have followed, so that TRIZ doesn't become negative competition between two entities within the organization. So as long as you solve first the initial reservations people have, where you will show them that this tool will make them better, and which will take care part of, means because people generate their own knowledge and experience, and then they take a position in the organization. Now when you tell them that look, without TRIZ you can't be here, then they are shaken up from the roots, because you are hitting their stability. They don't look at it as a growth, but they look at it as a stability threat. So first thing is that you have to do that buying in, whereby they don't think that it's a stability problem, it's a growth opportunity. Then you start training. When you start training in implementation, give a lot of importance to cross checking that they can apply the knowledge. Plus, if because in a TRIZ you always need a team, you recognize the team but recognize the individual personally. Then TRIZ will become a culture without any negatives.
I hope the answer is clear to Suresh. If not, probably we can definitely get in touch with Mr.
Yeah, let
Pandit. I
him
can share the email
send a mail to
address.
me. I can make a small note for him. No problem.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So we are just 3 minutes away from the close of the session, Panditji. So why, last question as a concluding question from my side, be very short. Why will you want anyone to practice TRIZ?
See, according to me, I as a nation, as a company leader, without innovation, you cannot really go with the trends in engineering system. If you cannot follow engineering system trends with your product or processes or whatever service offering, your business is not going to survive. So TRIZ is an opportunity for you to ride that. Otherwise, you will get lost. So it is not that you have a choice of using TRIZ or not. If you don't use TRIZ, anyway, you will not survive, is what I will say.
So earlier the better, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we are almost out of time. So I think let's thank Mr. Pandit for his wonderful insights on TRIZ, his journey towards TRIZ, his passion towards TRIZ. And I think let's conclude the session today. And we will have a similar session on the 25th of March. Next, that is chapter 3. And once again, on behalf of all the participants, TRIZ Asia, I would like to thank Mr. Pandit for his time for sharing his insights on TRIZ. I hope almost all the questions are answered to the satisfaction. And in case anybody wants to get in touch with Mr. Panditji, please write to me. I shall connect you to him.
Yeah, I will be happy to